Hi guys, I'm back. Sorry, I took a little bit of a hiatus. I had started a new job, so I had to kind of get settled in that. But this is the Recovering Borderline, episode 5, I think so. And so I'm glad that people are listening, which is nice. And I just want to start off with, if you feel that you're having problems, if you're having any type of harmful ideas to yourself, what we call suicidal ideations or suicidal behaviors, or having thoughts of harming yourself, please call a crisis line. They have 1-800 suicide crisis lines, or crisis hotlines in every city. And I employ, if you're having thoughts, please seek help. Okay, so that out of the way, we're still on our little journey of the criteria of the borderline per the DSM-5. And the third criteria that we face is unstable self-image. And per the DSM-5, it says a person with BPD often experiences a diffuse sense of self that is prone to sudden and dramatic shifts of identity. These changes are often characterized by shifting goals and future plans. Oh, yeah, check. Sexual and gender identities. That kind of I always had an underlying, just put it that way. That was kind of I had a very good understanding of who I wanted to be with. But there was always that, well, what if? Anyway, values. I think my values have always been pretty strong. Political ideologies, those were pretty strong. Views on friendships. That was basically, if you were a friend, if you helped me out, if we had a good relationship, but if you cut me out, or if you, after a bunch of times, were like, you said you were going to do something, and you said you were going to do something, and then you said you weren't, that I was just like, okay, that's it, I'm done. And it was basically, I basically condemned you to Siberia. Like, I condemned you to be you, and you just basically stood on a trap door, and I pulled a lever and you were gone. That was it. No going back. Career decisions. That's another thing. That check. Basically, I never really wanted to be a nurse. I just did it because I didn't think I could do anything else, and I just grew up in a medical family, and my dad, being an older, he was born in 1911, he was so happy that I was going to become a nurse because he was Jewish and he was a doctor, and he was just, hey, you'll find a nice Jewish doctor to take care of you, and you'll make babies and have cocktail parties, and you'll be able to play golf and tennis and yoga and Pilates. I mean, he didn't really know about yoga and Pilates, but, golf and tennis. So, I never wanted to be a nurse. And after 32 years, I realized, with all the experience that I have, that I became a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I feel like I finally have something to offer somebody. And, also, another thing that the DSM-5 says, One extreme form is when a person changes from the role of being a needy supplicant to that of a righteous avenger of past mistreatment. And that's a direct quote out of the DSM-5. This can result in false accusations of previous caregivers and partners. That's interesting. And at other times, the instability may show up as a general sense of not existing. So that kind of goes into you just dissociate. To me, that's what it, because when things were really bad, I would pretend I was a famous actor or a famous singer or a famous, I didn't like think I was Britney Spears or, Janet Jackson. I just pretended that I was, I was about to say my name. I was blah, la, la, and I was a great singer, and I was or I was a great artist, or I was a great actor, and that got me through the day, got me through my life. And sometimes, even at my age, I still kind of fall back to that when things are going stressful. But it's another thing is that also on the website of the Neurodivergent Insights by Dr. Neff, this is a great website, and she really puts together a lot of stuff, a lot of visual stuff, coupled with, if you're a visual learner. So maybe if she's out there and she's listening, I really like this website, and I think this is one of her quotes for the third criteria. It's basically a diffuse sense of self that results in sudden and dramatic shifts of identity characterized by shifting goals, future plans, identities, values, political ideologies, views on friendship, and career decisions. Okay, so she just kind of summed that, and she's really good at summing stuff up. So yeah, I have lost weight. I have gained weight. I hated, it seems like I got more dates when I was heavy than when I was thin, and that just boggled my mind. I also, on the friendship, the friendship front, totally loyal to even friends who I shouldn't have kept up with, who were just, they kind of used me. Case in point, I used to keep friends, I would, buy them stuff. I would buy them expensive dinners. I would take them to concerts and have the best seats. And it also, in relationships, intimate relationships that I perceived or wanted to have. And then in relationships, if you, for some odd reason, narcissists can just pull us out of a crowd. And because the one thing about a borderline is that we want people to like us. And narcissists, they breadcrumb us, and they give us just a little bit to keep us hanging on and spending money and doing things we shouldn't, especially alcoholic narcissists. I don't have a substance use issue, but I'm one of those people that can drink wine with no problem. I don't pass out. It actually it's a stimulant to me, and I can drink people under the table. Now, I don't drink and drive. I do realize I'm impaired. So, but when I've been at home or at somebody's house and we're drinking, they are just, falling down drunk, and I'm just going, great, awesome, And so what I would do is it wasn't really an intimate, but I was in a relationship, friendship with an alcoholic narcissist, and I'd buy like 3-4 bottles of wine at like $50 a pop. And, we'd drink them, he, being the alcoholic that he was, he became a sommelier, which is a wine taster. And it was like, okay, do you realize you're not, would you call that sublimation? You're just subliminating, your need to drink by becoming a sommelier by, I've got to taste all this stuff, So, but anyway, and he had other problems, but, yeah, we are fodder. We are clickbait. Well, I shouldn't say that. We are just bait for narcissists. So if you find yourself going over and beyond for somebody who's not going over and beyond for you, please, 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 talk to your friends, talk to your therapist, because I hope that most of the borderlines that I'm talking to are in some form of therapy and are getting, and if you're not, I suggest go find somebody who does cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the best place to start, because that helps you find out the type of thinking that is not healthy for you. They'll be able to be like, okay, so, when you say, I just know what they're thinking. Well, that's called magical thinking. That's called mind reading. And that's a huge thing for us borderlines, because, I know what you're thinking. That's, in cognitive behavioral therapy, your therapist is going to be, okay, so how do you know what they're thinking? And what evidence do you have that you can read their mind? Or, stuff like that. So, and then after having CBT, or when you've had enough CBT and you've had enough, like, how should I put it? For the first 10, 15 years, for the first 10 years, the doctor's therapists were just trying to keep me out of the hospital. First 20 years, therapists and doctors were just trying to keep me alive, keep me out of the hospital, keep me safe. And then in my 40s, like I said, I found a great therapist and a doc, and we started to be able to talk about, do more psychotherapy, do more, there are always those times where I'd go in and I say, listen, I had a thing that happened this week and I was triggered by it, let's talk about it. And they'd be like, okay, fine, let's talk about it. But then in between the triggers that were starting to not be weekly, we started to do psychotherapy and talk about how I was raised and how much resentment I had in this period of my life or in that period or towards this person or that person. And also I started to realize what I took in, how I translated somebody's actions, words, whatever, also lent itself to my mental health. Because just because somebody said, the sky is blue, I may have translated like, oh, so you're talking navy blue? There's sometimes in my life there were things that were lost in translation. And either I didn't have enough, I know it's kind of hard to believe, either I didn't have enough guts to go, what are you talking about? Like, translate. Are you talking sky blue? Are you talking midnight blue? What time of day is it? That kind of thing. So, but talking about the stage is, when it says unstable self-image, I have to put body image in there too. Because my mother had been a model. She and I were the same height, but when she wasn't drinking, before she drank and after she stopped drinking, she weighed about 120. But she had a very petite frame. And I had a bigger bone frame. I took the side of my father's heritage. And where my weight was like 30 pounds more than her. But my parents wanted me to be her weight. And my father being older, and I was listening to a podcast about somebody who was in their 30s who didn't understand why somebody who lived back in the early 1900s didn't, who smoked cigarettes and drank and didn't eat very much. She was just like, why don't they just eat? And I was gonna email her and go, I was raised by somebody who was born in, the early 1900s, and it's true. There was such a preoccupying idea of weight and figure and skinniness, and it didn't just come about in the 80s with, low fat this and Jane Fonda and all that kind of stuff, and all those, aerobics and leg warmers and, let's get physical. It really started back when, because cigarettes, everybody smoked because nobody wanted to gain weight, because they wanted to be skinny. Nobody wants a fat flapper. And so my dad was always like, always be a little bit hungry. And that wasn't like, always be a little bit hungry so you can reach your goals. No, honestly, always be hungry. Always be a little bit hungry. So, don't finish everything on your plate. And it wasn't, don't finish everything on your plate because you're full, but because you have to leave some, I don't know. It was just so weird. It's like, if you served yourself, you had to eat all of it. But if somebody served you, then you didn't. Just weird. Anyway. But yeah, I was constantly, always dieting. Constantly dieting. And because I had a half-sister, who my dad didn't have any control over because she lived with her mother, and her mom let her eat whatever she wanted. I mean, she ate her emotions. And I mean, it happens. But I was always, every time, when I moved out of the house, when I would talk to my father on the phone, he's like, "Hi, honey," or "Hey, baby, what's up? What's the magic number?" Which was code for, "So, how much do you weigh?" Because if I said 280, he'd just, his head would have exploded. But anyway, and there was a period in my life, in my late 40s, where in late 40s, early 50s, I weighed what, like I said, if my dad was alive, I probably never would have gotten that weight, but his head would have exploded if he knew how much I weighed when I was 50, 51, 52. Anyway, but yeah, that's another unstable, and to this day, there are times where I feel like, okay, I feel like I'm pretty. I feel like, I'm not a witch with a wart on her nose. And when people stare at me, I'm wondering if they're going, "Wow, she's really fat," or "She's really ugly." But now I'm like, well, maybe they're staring at me, or maybe they're looking at me because they think that maybe my makeup looks good, or my hair looks nice, or, so, but then if I start feeling good about myself, and my shrink and my therapist are working on this, they're like, "You can't take a compliment." And I said, "I'm afraid of being a narcissist. I'm afraid of going too far." And both of them are like, "We promise we'll tell you if you go too far." You have a very, very long way to go to becoming a narcissist, okay? So don't worry, but you can take a compliment. It's okay. So, so yeah, that's another thing, is I'm so afraid that I'm going to be like, "Oh yeah, I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm this. I know I'm that," whatever. Anyway, so I don't want to get the podcast too long, because everybody says between 20 and 25 minutes is the best length, and I don't want anybody dropping off. So I'm going to really try to start having put out a podcast maybe once or twice a week, now that I'm settled in my new job and digs and stuff. So if you have anything to say it nice, or don't say it at all. Or be diplomatic. And I will talk to you later. And what do they say on YouTube? Like and subscribe, and leave a comment. All right? Thank you. And thanks for your patience. I will try to be better about putting out more podcasts. All right. Good night.